Down in Williamsburg, Virginia sits Busch Gardens, a gorgeous theme park built with lands modeled after European countries. Accompanying these areas is a collection of world-class roller coasters. Today I'm going to be ranking all the roller coasters in the park, and yes, I'll even give my projected spot for the new for 2021 Intimate Multi-Launch Pantheon. So let's jump in. Alright, so real quick, let's get through the kiddie coaster. Grover's Alpine Express is a zero-force kiddie coaster that is necessary to the park, but it didn't really have any chance of upsetting anything else on this list. To begin the real list, we have the oldest operating roller coaster in the park, Loch Ness Monster. It opened in 1978 and is known for its iconic interlocking vertical loops over the river, the first and only pair left. Now, along with the inversions, the ride features some drops across the river and a long enclosed helix. There's actually a second lift hill midway through the ride as well. Now, this ride is 42 years old and it's starting to really feel like it. It has some shaky spots and it has those old school arrow transitions that really throw your head around. Besides the inversions, the layout is pretty boring, especially since you have to sit through two old chain lifts. Now, the ride is still a piece of history and it's much better than a lot of other arrow coasters, and it really is a nice way to start kids out on inversions. Next up is Tempesto, a Skyrocket 2 that in all honesty doesn't really feel right in the park. It just feels kinda unnecessary, especially when it's built right next to Apollo's Chariot. But either way, it's a standard clone with the comfort collars, the launches are fun, and the ride supplies some good hang time and whip without any roughness. Despite that, it's definitely a one and done versus the rest of the rides. Now, before I continue with the other existing coasters, I had the pleasure of riding Big Bad Wolf before its closure, and this is where it sits in my current rankings. Now, I was a lot younger when I rode it, so my memory of it isn't the best, but it was widely considered one of, if not the best, arrow suspended coasters ever built. Now, this ride featured two lift hills, a race through a hidden village, and a dive over the river. Unfortunately, it closed too soon due to maintenance cost and/or a lack of parts, most likely. This ride is one of the most sorely missed coaster credits out there. Currently the newest coaster in the park, Invader is a small-scale GCI hybrid coaster. It features a steel support structure and wooden track. The ride is a great family woody that doesn't sacrifice excitement or thrills. The layout is really packed with pops of airtime and quick transitions. Although, with a drop of only 74 feet and a length of around 2,100 feet, the ride does feel short and small, but for what the ride is designed for, it really does a great job. All family coasters should appeal to older guests like this one does. I really wouldn't mind getting multiple rides on this at all. The Big Bad Wolf was a beloved ride and thus needed a worthy successor. Rebolden is a multi-launch family-style coaster built by Zero, and it's a great heir to the woods the Wolf once roamed. Now, the ride is expertly themed and features a large indoor section and America's first drop track. The final dive over the river is the exact same layout the Wolf once swung down, and in all honesty, the ride does it just as well. The indoor section and launches boost this ride over the others, and if it's not for its long waits every time I visit, I'd ride this multiple times every time I visit. Now we have my personal favorite dive coaster, Griffon. This B&M is massive and the drop supplies some great airtime. While it is a bit of a one-trick pony, the ride also has two end moments and a splashdown. The biggest advantage this has over other dives such as Valraven and Cedar Point is the old school restraints that allow more freedom. The ride is short for sure, but it's one that I can sit down and experience all day. It's smooth and it always gives a great ride. Not to mention the line never seems all that long. Perhaps seeing the holding brake over the drop scares too many people away. These top three are really close. The top two are even closer, but up next is the park's B&M Hyper Apollo's Chariot. In fact, the first B&M Hypercoaster, and it's quite unique. It has a pre-drop along with many drops into valleys throughout the course. The L-shaped layout is packed with airtime hills, a helix, and a bunny hill finale. Unfortunately, my only ride recently was really slow. The ride felt so sluggish and it lacked any real airtime. However, when I was younger, I had the exact opposite happen. I found the B&M Hypers are pretty temperamental based on the time of day, temperature, and how many rides have cycled. Hopefully, my next visit, the ride will be open normally. At the time, it was closed until 5 p.m. because of Pantheon's construction. Finally, at number 1 currently is the massive B&M Invert Alpengeist. This coaster stands at 195 feet and features a 170-foot drop along with 6 inversions, some small theming throughout, and a pretty awesome setting. Every element on this coaster really whips the riders around, and unlike a lot of the 90s B&Ms, I really haven't had an issue with any rattling or roughness. The first drop seems to go on forever, and the Cobra Roll doesn't even smash your head like others. The mid-course, sure, it does take away some of the intensity of the ride at the end, but the layout's still very strong, and I think this is an underrated ride, especially when it's ranked among other inverts. I think this really belongs in that elite class of inverts. Now, before we wrap up this list, there's one more ride that needs to be mentioned. Pantheon is a new for 2021 multi-launch Intamin that looks incredible. It will feature a 170-foot top hat, Outer Bank Hill, and 4 launches. As much as I love Alpengeist, I think Pantheon's going to be the king of this park when it opens, and may be the best ride in the state as well. Potentially. Hopefully, without any more delays, the world will finally get to enjoy a plethora of new coasters in 2021. So that's going to finish up this list. Do you agree with my placements? If not, let me know what you think should be different below. As always, follow Island Coasters on Instagram for daily coaster content, news, and video updates. Till next time, that's going to be all from the shores of Island Coasters.